Christianity is predicated upon the belief that the New Testament is a fulfillment of the Hebrew Scriptures, and that if you look inside of the Hebrew Scriptures or the Tanakh, then you will see Jesus everywhere you look. One of the famous sources that Christians will pull up is Isaiah 9:6 in their Bibles or 9:5 in a Jewish Bible. Here's the verse in the original Hebrew. Ki yeled yulad lanu, bein nitan lanu, vatahi hamisra al shechmai, v'yikra shmo Pelayoetz el Gibor aviad sar shalom. What does this verse mean? If you look into the King James Bible, it's going to say, "For unto us a son is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace." Some versions will take this a step further, and instead of saying a child is born, they will say a child will be born. Look at all the wills in the New American Standard Version. Let's go back and examine this word by word and see what the scripture actually means. Ki yeled yulad lanu. For a child has been born to us is the correct translation of this verse. This word yulad is in the perfect tense, which is the same way as saying a completed action or the past tense. It's already happened. The same thing with the word nitan. It is also a perfect tense word. The church changed this to a future tense in order to give it a Christological rendering. And if we examine the King James Version of the Bible, we can see that the King James Version translated it correctly in those other places, but when it came to this verse, they wanted to impose a Christological interpretation of the text, so they changed the tense to make it seem like it was going to take place in the future. I'm going to give you 3 examples. In Genesis chapter 4, verse 26, the King James Version writes, "And to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos." You see, this word, yulad, is exactly the same word that's used in Genesis chapter 4, verse 26. And there the King James Version translated as was born. Let's do another one. Genesis chapter 10, 21. "Even to him were children born." Genesis 35, 26. "And these are the sons of Jacob which were born to him." Yulad. You see, yulad is a past tense form of the word to be born. Let's go a little bit further in the text. Vatahi hamisra al shechmai. And the authority was placed upon his shoulders. Vatahi means past tense. It was. Let's look at how the King James translated this word in other areas of the Bible. Isaiah chapter 5, verse 25. "Their carcasses, vatahi, were as refuse in the streets." Isaiah chapter 23, verse 3. "And she is, vatahi, the marketplace for the nations." It's not a future tense. And yet, in Isaiah 9:6, the KJV went and translated vatahi as shall be in the future tense. Isaiah 29:11, "The whole vision has become vatahi to you like the words of a book that is sealed." All of these words are used in the completed form. It's not something that's going to happen. Let's go further. Vayikra Shmo, and his name was called. Here the Christian translators wanted you to think that this person going to be born will be called in the future tense. The NIV even deletes the word name because they want you to not think that this will be the name of a human being. The word Vayikra appears in Leviticus chapter 1, verse 1. "And the Lord called Vayikra unto Moses." Isaiah 21, verse 8. "Then he cried, Vayikra, a lion, my Lord." Isaiah 36:13. "Then Rabshakeh stood and called Vayikra with a loud voice" in Hebrew. All of those are past tense. They're completed actions. The translators really wanted you to believe that this verse speaks about Jesus, but he's simply missing there. Now, a viewer posed a good question. They said, but who could be called with a divine name like Mighty God? That's a great question. It's really important to note that in the Hebrew Bible, names are very important. Many people are given theophoric names. That means a name of God that is put inside of their name. It's supposed to represent their mission, who they are and what they will accomplish in their lifetime. Now the name Hezekiah, Chizkiyahu, literally means mighty God. You're taking the word Chazak and you're taking the 2-letter name of God, Yud and He, and you're combining them together. Mighty God is the result of that. There are so many other examples of this. Gedalia, it means the great God. Elihu, God is He. Eliav, God is Father. Eli, God is. Eliezer, help of God. Elisha, God is salvation. These go on and on all over the Bible, and it's not just people that have names of God, these theophoric elements inside of their names. In Jeremiah 33, verse 16, Jerusalem is called the Lord our righteousness. That's the name of Jerusalem. In Genesis 33:20, an altar is named God, the God of Israel. You see, the way it works inside of the Hebrew Scriptures is that somebody who is acting in a holy manner, they receive the name of God upon themselves. It doesn't make them God. In Exodus chapter 7, verse 1, Moses himself is actually called God. What does this mean? This means that Moses was given an authority in God's name. It doesn't mean that he was elevated to the status of godship. So it is perfectly normative and relevant to the Hebrew Scriptures for Hezekiah to be called Mighty God, because he is acting in the agency of God by serving him and making this world a more holy place in which people follow his commandments. Don't forget that Hezekiah was the one who rededicated the temple to God, and he created a mass movement in which people repented and they began keeping God's commandments again. He did wondrous things. He brought people back to the mighty God. Now remember, Isaiah 10 is very closely connected to Isaiah 9. The two chapters are speaking about the same thing. In Isaiah chapter 10 verse 21, it says, the remnant shall return to the mighty God. Hezekiah was given the task of returning the people to the mighty God, and he fulfilled that task amazingly. So here's a deeper look at Isaiah chapter 9.